We are live here in the Rumble Studios here in Washington, D.C. Thanks so much for joining us for the Maga response to Joe Biden's State of the Union. In the next few minutes, we're going to recap our experiences there on the House floor, and I'm joined with Congresswoman Marjorie Greene from Georgia's 14th District. We've got a lot to unpack just from the actual speech itself, but if you jump on X right now, probably what you're going to see is you on the House floor with the beautiful hat that you're wearing right now.
Yeah, that's right. Seems to be trending right now. Well, I caught a bunch of flack from the Democrats. I mean, they were yelling at me, screaming at me when I put it on. But I put it on for a reason, and that's because these are the policies we believe in. Make America great again. Of course, I unapologetically support President Trump. And it was interesting to confront Secretary Mayorkas, was the first one that I talked to when I tried to hand him one of these pens, the Say Her Name Laken Riley pen. This is the pen, Brian, that I handed out on the House floor to many of my colleagues, Republican colleagues. Democrats wouldn't take them, and handed out this pen because today we also passed the Laken Riley Act. But I'll continue on and let you know how that went.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're just now joining us, welcome. It was kind of been a long evening. Joe Biden was officially about 15 to 20 minutes late coming out. And of course, let the rumors fly that he had to get medically ready, prepared to walk down there. So we're glad you're joining us. We're going to first I want to talk about what the tone was. You've been to several State of the Unions. I predicted that this year's would be a little bit more fiery due to the state of our economy right now in the country and all the problems that we have. And I kept asking myself, what is Joe Biden going to actually talk about to inspire America and say that the things that he's done good? So, but set the scene, what it felt like in there, and as he walked by you. And there's amazing video right now where you confronted him. Walk me through that.
So the first one I confronted was Secretary Mayorkas. I want to start with him. The House impeached Secretary Mayorkas. Those were my articles of impeachment that we passed on the House floor. Historic. As a matter of fact, this is one of the only Republican accomplishments we've had this Congress. And when Secretary Mayorkas came walking down the aisle, I was sitting, my seat was right by the aisle, so I was standing up right there, and I held this pen out, and I said, Secretary Mayorkas, and he turned to me, and I said, say her name, Laken Riley, say her name, and take this pen. And his face went stone cold, and he wouldn't say a word, and he wouldn't take the pen. And then he kept going. And that was first when the cabinet came through. But when they announced the president of the United States, Joe Biden, and he came in, of course, he was shaking hands, talking with everyone back and forth. And I happened to be videoing him with my own phone. I had the Maga hat on. I had my hat on. And he'd seen it as he was coming down the aisle. He saw me with it on. And the first time he saw me, he went like that. His head back and got his eyes real big. And then he said hello to some more people. And then he turned to me, and I held the pen up, and I said, say her name, Laken Riley. And I offered him the pen, and he actually took the pen, and he said, I will say her name, but he didn't say it. He didn't say Laken Riley. And he looks absolutely like he does not care. He looks like he could care less about Laken Riley. But he knows it's an issue for him.
Yeah. Well, it took about almost 50 minutes to talk about to even mention the border or immigration crisis. And it really took him a lot of time just to talk about what was hurting America right now. If you remember the top of the State of the Union, he talked about Ukraine. He came out of the gate talking about Ukraine and the fact that we need to fight Putin. And he's going to stand. It's never going to happen. He's never going to stop. He's not going to send your sons and daughters to war, which we've heard him say. We've heard Zelensky actually say that as well. So this, I think, to put the first issue you talk about is Ukraine, just shows you where their mind is right now. It's because it's a conveyor belt of money, our money, your money, going to Ukraine. He is missing the mark with America right now.
Oh, he's missing it big. It's not a popular issue with Americans. As a matter of fact, it's become a 70% issue that Americans do not want to fund the war in Ukraine. So of course, but this is a Washington D.C. war, and the establishment wants the money. Brian, I also thought it was interesting. He kept talking about taxes. And I yelled out to him, one of the times he was talking about taxes, I yelled out, Hunter needs to pay his taxes. Because don't forget, Hunter Biden is actually in big trouble with the Department of Justice right now for not paying his taxes.
What did people say to you when you say stuff like that? And you had a Democrat sitting right next to you. Mm-hmm. You told me she was kind of the whole time.
Actually, she agreed. She said he does need to pay his taxes.
Okay, well.
So she agreed with me. And I was like, well, good. I'm glad to hear it. You usually don't hear that. You usually hear defense of Hunter. I serve on the oversight committee, so I'm used to listening to Jamie Raskin constantly defend Hunter Biden in our investigation into the Biden crime family. But the representative, the Democrat rep sitting to my left, she actually agreed that Hunter does need to pay his taxes, and Joe Biden completely ignored when I yelled out, Hunter needs to pay his taxes.
Yeah. Okay, so he went into Ukraine, Russia. That was the first coming out of the gate. It took him a while to even talk about the economy. It seemed like to me it was an attack on corporations, how he was going to make you pay your fair share. He kept talking about this. So far he's going to attack or tax corporate America. And, you know, of course, that gets the applause from all the Democrats because they all think that, you know, corporations don't pay their fair share. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, that's where the irony was for me. Back to Hunter Biden, because here's Joe Biden saying the rich pay their fair share. He wants to tax corporations at a higher tax rate. Make no mistake. If Democrats are in control of the White House next year, they're going to raise taxes, and they're going to raise it on everyone. But the irony of the entire thing, Brian, is as Joe Biden is talking about raising taxes on corporations and making the rich pay their fair share, his own son took in tens of millions of dollars from foreign countries, foreign agents, foreign businesses, because Joe Biden has held power in this town for longer than I've been alive. Over 50 years, he's held power. And so this family has gotten rich off of him selling out his political power, selling out political favors, and then he's lecturing about raising taxes on the rich. And his own son, Hunter Biden, hasn't paid his taxes and should be in jail for not paying his taxes.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about some of the fact checking here in terms of what he said and the reality of it. We'll start with the economy. He says Biden claims that the Biden administration's economy plan is working. Well, if you want to fact check that, the American people can't afford the Biden economy. If you look at grocery prices are up 21%, gas prices up 40%. I would hardly say that the economy under Joe Biden is something that America wants.
No.
2/3 of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck right now, and Americans need an additional $11,400 to afford the same standard that they had under a Trump administration. So the fact that he's saying this economy is so good right now, I just don't know any other way to say that's a bunch of crap. And he's trying to convince people that by paying more money, your economy, you're actually doing well.
Well, let's talk about the economy. Democrats are the party of shutdowns during COVID. So it's interesting to hear him stand up there and brag about the economy and how well the economy is doing when the Democrats were the ones that shut it down and kept it shut down for far longer than it should ever have been. They caused businesses to go out of business. They forced kids to stay home out of school. Many people lost their jobs because of Democrat vaccine mandates and forced them to get the vaccine against their will. And that should have never happened. Here's some of the inflation numbers. By the way, which was so interesting when he claimed inflation had come down. Well, due to inflation because of Joe Biden, we've got electricity is up 28.6% since Biden took office. Food prices are up 20.8%. Rent of primary residence is up 19.5%. It goes on. Motor vehicle insurance up 20%. I mean, the list is on and on. Americans cannot afford to get their groceries, can't afford gas, can't afford electricity bills because of Joe Biden's economy, and Joe Biden's inflation. So I don't know where he gets his numbers. He's flat out lying to the American people.
Yeah, when he says inflation is down, the fact that inflation is up. And think about this. Inflation really affects the people the hardest is the lower income. They are hit the hardest. And apparently the Democrats claim they represent the minority, low income people in our country. But those are the ones that are getting hit the hardest. Once again, Joe Biden is not connected to the American people. He is still in this elitist bubble. They live in a shield around them. And they will say anything to convince you that their plan is the right plan, when in fact, the facts, and he kept saying that throughout the night, just the facts, the numbers.
No, it's not the numbers.
Do not agree with him.
No, the numbers. And the numbers don't lie. So let's go over the numbers. What drives inflation? A lot of what has driven inflation is from the COVID stimulus money that was pumped into the economy. One of the lies that he lied about is the Biden administration. He claimed the Biden administration cut the deficit by 1.7 trillion. That's an absolute lie, folks. I've been in Congress ever since Joe Biden became president. The Biden administration has added $5 trillion to the national debt. It's 3 out of the top 5 worst deficits have occurred under the Biden administration. The other 2 were the Great Recession and the COVID pandemic. Here's the truth. Because of the spending that's happened during the Biden inflation and when Nancy Pelosi was Speaker of the House, that is one of the biggest drivers of inflation that is crippling the American people. Joe Biden claims he cares about the middle class. He doesn't care about the middle class. All of his policies are destroying the middle class. And he clearly didn't even mention the poor. More people have been driven into poverty because of Joe Biden's presidency and his horrific economic policies and the Bidenflation. So he just was flat out lying, and I don't know where he gets the facts.
Yeah, I don't know as well. Hey, if you're just now joining us, we are live here in the beautiful studios of Rumble here in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. What a fantastic studio. We want to thank the guys at Rumble for letting us come in here and do this because it's important to get the message out. I know there is a rebuttal that the Republicans are having right now, but I just, in clear transparency, I don't necessarily think all of those. We want to get to the facts of MAGA and what matters to real Americans. I was sitting next to a gentleman up in the balcony, and I kept seeing all these, Democrats up there that they kept cheering and clapping they kept chanting 4 more years. And I was like, 4 more years of what? Inflation, open border, crime in our streets? That's what you want for 4 more years? And it really dawned on me, Marjorie, these people are delusional, and they lust for power, and they'll do anything to get it. And they'll lie to you and I and say, you know what? Things are great, Marjorie. We need 4 more years of what we're seeing. So, but let's talk about that for a second. You got a lot of crap for wearing that hat.
That's right.
Because no political messages, no signs, no hats, things like that.
Yep.
But chanting 4 more years, that's okay.
Yep. Well, there is decorum on the House floor, and we're not supposed to be political in the chamber. In the House of Representatives. It's the people's house. It's not supposed to be political. The State of the Union is not supposed to be a political speech. It's not supposed to be a campaign speech. But tonight's speech for Joe Biden was a campaign speech because he's in big trouble. And he's in very big trouble because of the number 1 issue in America, and that is the border. But when I put on this hat, every Democrat in the area sitting around me, and I was sitting right next to the center aisle, so they were everywhere. They all started yelling at me.
What were they saying? Could you understand what they were saying to you?
Well, a lot of it I couldn't understand because so many were yelling at me at the same time. But one of them was complaining about me wearing a hat, and we're not supposed to wear hats on the House floor. And I said, I'll pay the fine. I'll pay the fine.
What do you think that fine costs?
Well, I don't know, but I do know that I paid over $100,000 in fines last Congress because Nancy Pelosi fined me every single time I walked on the House floor because I refused to wear a mask. And so it could be anywhere like $2,500. I'm not sure,
okay.
$5,000.
And you don't care.
10,000.
You knew that going in that you would.
I'll pay the fine, but here's what offended me. Here's what I found to be outrageous is Sergeant at Arms came up and told me that I needed to take the hat off. And I said, I'm not taking the hat off. I refuse to take it off. And he said, well, it's decorum. I said, I certainly understand. You do what you need to do. I'll pay a fine. I'll do whatever, a warning, whatever there is. But I'm not taking the hat off. And he said, well, you're going to have to leave, or we're going to take you out. And I was like, you can haul me out of here. Go ahead and try it, but I'm not taking this hat off. And I told him, I'm elected by my district. This is the people's house. I will wear this hat. I will wear it here in the House floor because my district supports President Trump, supports Make America Great Again policies, and supports me wearing this hat. I'm not taking it off, and I'm not leaving.
So he threatened to remove you, and you said, "Fine, if you got to remove me, remove me."
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen them to try to do that.
Me too.
How many Republicans now? Let's talk about this. How many Republicans supported you for wearing that hat? Did you get some high fives and some fist bumps?
I got plenty of support. I had not one single Republican tell me I should take the hat off.
Because if they did, they can probably guarantee they won't be elected this next. We know how that works out when you turn against the Maga.
Doesn't work out good.
It doesn't work out well. Okay, so let's talk about the border, because we knew it was coming. And of course, here's fact check on this. His claim was Congress needs to fix the border crisis. And of course, the fact is the Biden administration has every authority right now to do that tonight. He could do it. Won't do it. The Biden administration took 94 executive orders dismantling border security in the first 100 days. Joe Biden created the crisis with his pen and could have solved it with the same pen, restoring America First border solution. So once again, he placed blame on House Republicans for the border being unsecure, but the facts are there that he has every power in his ability to fix the border.
He absolutely does, Brian, and he's lying to the entire country when he's trying to put the blame on Congress. We did our job. We passed H.R. 2, the strongest border security bill in our nation's history, and we got that passed early on this year, and we're very proud of it. The Senate refuses to take up our border bill, and Joe Biden refuses to sign it into law. So he can't blame House Republicans. He can't blame Congress. The reality is that Joe Biden can certainly fix the border. He can fix every single ounce of it with the stroke of his pen, with executive orders. He does not need Congress to make any actions, and he can ask the Senate to pass H.R. 2, and he could sign it into law. But here's the truth. The border and the border crisis is the state of our union. That's the most important issue. It's the number one issue. Poll after poll across the entire country, Republicans and Democrats, it's the number one issue. And that's why saying Laken Riley's name is extremely important. It's recognizing the fact that Americans, innocent Americans, just like Laken Riley, are victims of illegal alien crime. And the fact that this innocent college girl was murdered by an illegal alien, a monster that did not belong in our country and should have been deported, is outrageous, and it's shocking, and it's infuriating to Americans. So for Joe Biden to stand up there and try to blame House Republicans, try to blame Congress for his border crisis is a flat out lie to the American people. We've had over 11 million illegal aliens in our country since Joe Biden came into office. Approximately 2 million of those are known gotaways. I serve on the Homeland Security Committee. I know the numbers, and our entire committee knows the numbers, but 2 million people that we don't know who they are, we don't know where they are, we don't know what they're going to do. That is an extreme crisis, and it is completely Joe Biden's fault. It's the Biden administration's fault. It's the whole reason why we impeached Secretary Mayorkas. And Joe Biden needs to be held accountable for it.
Okay, let's real quickly move on to, and I left the chamber because I couldn't take it anymore. Actually, I couldn't hear it, and I needed to get out of there. He claims, let's talk about Gaza for a second, because Joe Biden has received a lot of criticism from many on the progressive left for not calling for a ceasefire, for really being open about that. And we've seen the protests in front of many buildings there in D.C. and on the Capitol. Genocide Joe must go. We've heard the progressive left said they're not going to vote for Joe Biden in this next upcoming election. I say, good. You can stay home all you want. His claim was we need an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Well, the fact is Israel and the world can no longer tolerate Gaza being a terrorist safe haven. Did he talk very much? Did he go into detail on this conflict? Because I would imagine a lot of Democrats on the floor would have really been vocal about that. And maybe I missed it, but you were there for the whole time. So what did you hear on that?
He really tried to straddle both sides of the fence. First, he tried to say that he had the strongest record for Israel, being pro-Israel, and he said, and I'll fight anybody in here on that, is what he told all of us. So he tried to talk very pro-Israel, recognized guests up in the upper chamber, that families who tragically have had a family member either die or kidnapped by Hamas during this horrific attack on Israel. So he tried to, then he swung back the other way and talked about, he used a Hamas talking point, literally used a Hamas talking point, and said that 30,000 Palestinians, innocent Palestinians, had been killed in Israel's war on Gaza. That's what he talked about. Then he went into his support for a two-state solution. So he had a really hard time. He was trying to walk both sides of the aisle. This is a major campaign problem for Joe Biden. Just as you said, Brian, the progressive left have said they are not going to vote for him. And this is interesting. Just today, with all the protesters that have been around, you saw them as well. Some of them are yelling at us, and then the next minute they're not yelling. There was one woman that was saying, she said, many of us are not going to vote for him this election because of he's not supporting Gaza. And they said that they were going to vote for a third-party candidate. Yeah,
well, let them, because they're just going to take away from Joe Biden is what they're going to do. Also in here, must note that there was a Harvard CAPS Harris poll found that 80% of Americans, mostly 18 to 24-year-olds, 80% of Americans back Israel over Hamas. So this notion that America, supports Hamas, or that's just simply not true. But it's, this is what they do. They're very they want to polarize and divide America, and I think on this issue they're going. That I left a few minutes early. Climate. Did he talk about climate at all? I don't remember hearing any rhetoric about climate change.
That's
Did he stay away from that very important topic?
He was angry grandpa, yelling a lot. Sometimes it was difficult to understand him and hear him. We had the Democrats interrupting and chanting and clapping and cheering, doing their 4 more year chants, which by the way is political too. They're mad at me for wearing a political hat, but chanting 4 more years is totally political. I do not recall him talking about climate change, even though that's like the #1 issue. Democrats claim that it's because of the climate that so many migrants are coming across our border. We all know the truth. Joe Biden opened up the border, and that's why they're coming. But no, I didn't hear him say.
It was very surprising we didn't hear anything about a Green New Deal. Okay, so those are my initial observations. Now, I think the tone in this State of the Union was a little different than it was last year, because I think the issues are more extreme. I want you to explain. A lot of people didn't know what the symbolism was between the white jackets that the Democrat, mostly women, there was a couple men that were wearing these white jackets. What were they standing up for?
Well, a lot of the Democrat women wore white today, and Joe Biden addressed it in a speech. He wants to federalize Roe. And when they talk about that, last Congress, under Nancy Pelosi brought a bill to the floor, which is they want to federalize Roe, meaning they want a federal law on abortion. But their federal law would make abortion legal up until the day of birth. We're talking about a newborn baby a baby that has been in the womb for 9 months could be murdered, literally murdered the day it is set to be born. And that's their law. That's what Joe Biden is talking about when he says federalize Roe. And the women were wearing white for this, but they were also wearing white for IVF. So it's really interesting. I mean, that's quite a quandary, right? Democrats are for killing babies up until the day of the birth, but then all of a sudden they're for women having babies. So which one do they want? Are they for women having babies, or are they for women killing babies up until the day of birth? But that's what they were wearing white for. Joe Biden talked about it during his speech. But again, the number one issue is the border crisis. The other top issues are inflation. Top issues are that we don't want our hard-earned tax dollars going to Ukraine, going to more foreign wars. And the debt is $34 trillion, over $34 trillion and counting every single day.
I hope that's the last time we see a State of the Union from Joe Biden.
I do too.
I think I am just appalled of what is happening to this country. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, you might have saw on social media, there was massive fencing. I call it J6 style fencing around the entire Capitol complex. I mean, they erected this thing basically overnight. It wasn't there yesterday, and even there yesterday afternoon. They put it out overnight. And, you know, initially, I was thinking to myself, is this because they think there's a threat from, you know, conservatives, that MAGA Trump supporters are going to, you know, storm the Capitol, which, by the way, that was in the first 10 minutes of his speech as well. It was talking about the threat to democracy and that the January 6th and the people from the other side of the aisle. So he did call out conservatives being the party that stormed the Capitol in J6. But, you know, what's your thoughts on this fencing that goes around the Capitol? Because it does allude that his message is going to be so controversial that we're going to just storm the Capitol again. But it's really, in my opinion, to protect from the protests for the Free Palestine movement, because those guys, and I saw some video from Benny Johnson, so shout out to him, that they were blocking portions of the Capitol roads to come in here. Yeah,
that's right. They seem to be the real threat to democracy right now, as the Hamas supporters. You know, here's the thing. I thought it was hilarious. They put up that fence around the Capitol in the dark of night, literally in the dark of night, but they don't care about securing the border. Joe Biden and the Democrats' way to secure the border is to pass border security that would allow 5,000 illegal aliens to come into the country every single day. They don't want a border wall. They'll tell you, oh no, we don't need a wall. Walls are racist. But yet here they are for the State of the Union. They put up a fence overnight, and it's really to keep out their own supporters, the ones that support Hamas and are mad at Joe Biden.
Yeah, something else. All right, if you're just now joining us, we're live here in Washington, D.C. in the Rumble Studios. Very beautiful studios up here. We certainly appreciate the guys at Rumble for letting us come here and do this. Any closing thoughts or anything you want to say about this before it's getting kind of late? I know a lot of people have been watching. Which, by the way, Joe Biden was late to this. It started late. Jill Biden sat in the next same row that I was in, but just in the next section over. When she came in, I thought, okay, it's time for people to come out now because she's in place. But closing thoughts on what you saw and watched tonight. Well, talking about safety and security, we've talked about the border a lot. I think it's important to point out the crime statistics, and that's something that's happened under Joe Biden is our cities aren't safe, our communities aren't safe. Last year here in our nation's capital in D.C., we had the highest number of homicides since 1997. Homicides in Chicago are up 23%. Murders in New York City are up 23%, while felony assaults are up 35%. Across 32 cities in America, car thefts increased 33.5% just in the first half of 2023. Carjackings here in Washington, D.C. are up 98%, and earlier this year, a Democrat member of Congress had his car jacked. Stolen from him. In Joe Biden's America, we're not safe anywhere. We're not safe in our cities. We're not safe in our homes. And innocent Americans like Laken Riley aren't safe. So I think that's really important to point out, Brian. And one more thing in closing is I just can't stop talking about Laken Riley.
I can't stop talking about her because Laken Riley truly is the state of the union. And so I'd like to take this just one more chance before we wrap it up to let everyone know that today on the House floor, Republicans passed the Laken Riley Act. And this would require ICE to arrest illegal aliens who commit theft offenses and mandates that these aliens are detained until they are removed from the country so they cannot commit any more crimes, because that's what happened to Laken Riley. The man that murdered her, from the illegal alien from Venezuela that murdered her, had already been violent in New York City. So if the Biden administration was doing their job, a job they take an oath, they swear an oath to protect Americans and to protect our Constitution, that man would have never killed Laken Riley. So again, the Laken Riley Act was really important. It passed on the House floor today. Only 37 Democrats voted for it. And not one Democrat from the state of Georgia voted for the Laken Riley Act. So shame on them. That's definitely going to come back to them this year in the election.
I agree. And because people in Georgia are not going to want to forget that. That's a good thing about law and order and safety. I was talking to the gentleman next to me, and I said, sure, you could poll 100 people out on the streets and say, what are the top 10 concerns of you? And I guarantee you, Ukraine is not in the top 10. That just tells you how disconnected Joe Biden is from the American people, without a doubt. It wasn't economy, wasn't crime, wasn't safety in the communities. It was Russia, 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 Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine. And then he's shifted on to January 6th, January 6th, January 6th. So the threat to democracy. I mean, the same talking points we have heard every single time. So anyway, I'm so glad that we were able to do this because I think it's important that we, from being in the chamber, and obviously you're on the House floor, to kind of give our take on what happened in there. And so I really appreciate you coming. And on a programming note, if you want to see more of Marjorie Taylor Greene, you can do that. Coming up this Saturday, President Trump will have a rally there in Rome, Georgia, where you live. It's going to be nice. Yes. Big crowds expected to come out for that. And of course, right side will have a wall-to-wall coverage, cameras everywhere for this thing, as we expect huge crowds. And we start there, I think, around 12 o'clock local time there in Rome, Georgia. And then from there, who knows? I mean, wherever he goes, these crowds keep building, and President Trump definitely has momentum.
They do. And President Trump is winning this election. He's running away with it. This is something the American people always knew and expected. But finally, everybody's starting to figure it out. And he is definitely officially our Republican presidential nominee. Very honored to have President Trump coming to Rome, Georgia this Saturday. It's going to be a great big rally, and people at home can't wait to have him come into town. Absolutely.
Also, a reminder, go visit our friends over at MyPillow. Mike Lindell has been a patriot in all of this. And maybe the next, State of the Union, when President Trump is in there, Mike Lindell can be there and give his perspective. He would do it. So go to mypillow.com/RSBN. Huge savings right now. And he's such a patriot. He's put so much of his own money into these lawsuits right now, helping other candidates fight their lawsuits as well. So it's important that we do everything we can to help him fight this fight. Go get those great products, mypillow.com/RSBN. You can go to mystore.com as well. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but we're right off. There's a lot of police activity going outside. We've had a helicopter go for like the last hour or so. Mm-hmm. Welcome to D.C. on the night of the State of the Union. Right. When you've got government officials being moved around the city, but it's been a good time. And once again, thanks to our friends over at Rumble. Definitely subscribe to Rumble. They've got a great, if you're watching us on any other platform, switch over to Rumble and subscribe to us there. Well, we get to wake up tomorrow and keep fighting a good fight.
Keep fighting the good fight. Yeah, thanks for joining in, everyone.
Thank you very much. Until next time, goodbye and God bless from our nation's capital. We'll see you later.
What's up, guys? My name is Jaden Hurd, and I have a Christian show called Let It Be Heard, where we analyze culture and current events from a biblical perspective. I highly recommend you guys check us out. We now have episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And basically, what happens is we react to videos, we have talking points, we have on guests, and it's very exciting. Come check us out on Rumble on the RSBN channel. God bless you guys.
Looks like you've been sleeping well.
Megan, he's back. The My Pillow guy.
And you're looking good.
Still feeling good.
Well, just when you thought it couldn't get any better, we've got the best pillow ever, My Pillow 2.0. When I invented My Pillow, it had everything you'd ever want in a pillow. Well, now there's new technology that makes it even better. My Pillow 2.0 has my patented fill combined with a cooling fabric with temperature regulating thread. My Pillow 2.0 is truly the next generation of My Pillow.
Now's the time to go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use the promo code to save 50% on your My Pillow 2.0. Not only that, for a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free.
You're sleeping even better.
And cooler, too.
And you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
mypillow.com.
Welcome to the Right Side Broadcasting Network. We're not like the other media outlets out there that cut and edit what other people say. In 2015, we were created by our founder, Joe Seals, to cover President Donald J. Trump's speeches and rallies, to which we continue to do to this day. We've also covered important conservative events like CPAC, TPUSA, March for Life, and many other important events and hearings around the country. We were made for people like you, everyday Americans who are tired of the mainstream media, who are tired of being lied to, manipulated, and fed an agenda. Our goal here at Right Side Broadcasting is to allow you to see the truth, giving our correspondents and commentators a wide latitude to speak their minds. You won't find anything like this in the mainstream media. Your support through your donations, locals, and supporting our advertisers allows us to continue to cover important events around the country each and every day. So, from us here at Right Side Broadcasting, thank you for supporting us and the right side of history.